Hello learners, today we are going to read the poem Television by Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was a British novelist, screenwriter, poet and also a fighter pilot. He served in the Royal Air Force while the Second World War. Roald Dahl's famous short stories include Lamb to the Slaughter, The Landlady and The Enormous Crocodile. Roald Dahl is considered one of the prolific writers of the modern age, and he is also noted for writing for children. Television is a famous poem by Roald Dahl that advises and inspires reading and condemns watching television. It is very much relevant in today's time because not only children but also people of all ages are obsessed in watching television. So the poet wholeheartedly appeals before our parents not to install the television at all. Here mentionable, the poem has 94 lines altogether. Though it is a long poem, but the language used here is very much simple to be understood and there is no particular stanza. Only the lines are divided into segments for the ease of comprehension. The poem takes a comic look at a serious problem of watching television. It warns us about the dangers of watching television hours after hours. So let's start with the poem without much delay. The most important thing we have learned so far as children are concerned is never let them near your television set. Or better still, just don't install the idiotic thing at all. The poet says that from his experience, he knows that children watch television hours after hours. They gape at the television screen, forgetting all about that is happening around them. The poet advises the parents not to let the children sit before the television set. Rather, he advises not to install the television set at all. The poet remarks the television set as an idiotic box. But why is the poet remarking so? He will justify his remark throughout the poem. In almost every house we have watched them gaping at the screen. They loll and slope and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out. Last week in someone's place we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. The poet says that in every house he visits he sees children watching television hours after hours. They only lie down and watch the television with their eyes wide open. And when they walk, they also walk in a lazy manner. They watch television until their eyes are tired. And these are not Dahl's imagination. This is his experience. He saw a dozen of eyeballs, means 6 children sitting on the floor and gazing at the television set. They sit and stare and stare and sit until they are hypnotized by it, until they are absolutely drunk with all that shocking, ghastly junk. The poet says that the children keep on staring at the television screen until they are hypnotized, means they are totally captured by the idiotic box. They don't seem to be moving from there, as they probably forget what is happening around them. Whatever they watch on the television set, they think it, they believe it to be real. They are absolutely drunk, means they are lost in the television screen. And the shocking, ghastly junk means useless things cover up their mind. They gather in their mind. The television shows not only kill their time but also make them lazy and robs their mind of imaginative power. Here their minds filled with the images and stories they were watching in the television are compared to a drunk man's imaginary world. So here a metaphor is used by the poet. Oh yes, we know it keeps them still. They don't climb out the window sill. They never fight or kick or punch. They leave you free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. The poet says that he knows that if the parents make their children sit in front of the television, they get a scope to cook or to do their household works, to wash the dishes or etc. But this cannot be a defense to make them sit before the television, because ultimately the mind of the children are getting damaged by it. They are harmed by it. The poet is well aware that if the parents do not let the children sit before the television, they will do mischievous things, they will kick or punch, they will climb on the window sill and do a lot of mischievous things. But this cannot be a defense at all. The parents should understand, if the children watch television for a long time, it damages their mind. Their thinking process are harmed. But did you ever stop to think, to wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved thought? It rots the sense in the head. It kills imagination dead. The poet urges the parents to get time to think that what are they doing to their children. The poet himself then answers in a brilliant way. Watching the television damages the sense of the head. Children are drawn away from the reality. They just believe what they watch on the television screen. Watching for a long time also kills the imagination power. It kills the senses of their mind. The children thus slowly lose the creativity of their mind, the creativity of imagining, the creativity of thinking. It clogs and clutters up the mind. It makes a child so dull and blind. The child forgets to think on his own. The TV shows clouds his mind and makes him lose his imaginative power. Thus the child grows dull and blind. Thus the children forget to develop their skills or improve their personality. Thus they become dull and blind. He can no longer understand a fantasy of fairyland. Children in their age fantasize or imagine of the various things, but by watching television they do not put their effort to fantasize. They cannot extend their imaginative power to that level. His brain becomes as soft as cheese. His powers of thinking rust and freeze. He cannot think, he only sees. The brain of the children become soft as cheese. They do not utilize their mind. They cannot find their own logic to analyze or interpret a thing. Thus the thought process freezes and gets rusty, because we know brain is like a machine. A machine, if not used, gets rusty, gathers rust. Likewise, the brain, if not used, gets rusty, loses the power of thinking. The children only watch the television and believe what others do and say. All right, you will cry, all right, you will say, but if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain our darling children? Please explain. Now the poet is repeatedly asking not to let the children sit before the television set. So the parents will ask him, how they will keep their babies entertained if the television set is taken away from them. The poet has answers to these questions also. In the following lines, he says, "We will answer this by asking you what used the darling ones to do? How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? Have you forgotten? Don't you know?" The poet answers by asking a question again. He asks that in the primitive ages, when this monster like the television was not invented, then also the children would live in the earth. How would they get entertained? The poet asks if the parents have forgotten that in those time the children were also entertained by doing something else, which we are getting in the next lines. We will say it very loud and slow. They used to read. They would read and read and read and read, and then proceed to read some more. Great Scott gazooks, one half their lives was reading books. The poet says that children in those times would read and read, means they would read a lot, and through reading they would broaden their knowledge and they would grow their reading habit to such an extent that they would not stop reading. People then spent half their life by reading books only. Great Scott's gazooks are expressions of surprise. The nursery shelves held books galore. Books cluttered up the nursery floor, and in the bedroom by the bed more books were waiting to be read. In those times, the nursery shelves were packed up with books, and books were also scattered on the floor. Wherever they see, they will notice books. In the bedroom, by the bed, they only found books. They won't stop reading. Whenever a book is read, they would pick another book. Such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens, and whales, and treasure isles and distant shores where smugglers rowed with muffled oars, and pirates wearing purple pants, and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pot, staring away at something hot. It smells so good, what can it be? Good gracious, it's Penelope. Here the poet talks about the popular books of adventures like that children used to read in that time. In those days, boys and girls would read various types of books on dragons, gypsies, queens, whales, treasure islands, smugglers, pirates, ships, elephants, cannibals, etc. The younger ones had Beatrix Potter with Mr. Toad, the Dirty Rotter, and Squirrel Nutkin, Pigling Bland, and Mrs. Tiggywinkle, and Just How the Camel Got His Hump, and How the Monkey Lost His Rump, and Mr. Toad, and Bless My Soul, There's My Rat, and Mr. Mole. Oh, books, what books they used to know, those children living long ago. The children would read books written by Helen Beatrix Potter, an author of children's book, featuring animals with colorful characters, featuring animals with colorful illustrations. So we find Dahl here giving a tribute to the children author. He also mentions some of the stories, how the camel got his hump. He also mentions some characters like Mr. Toad, Mrs. Tiggywinkle, etc. The significant characters whom children would love to read. This also shows the poet's love for the book which he would read in his childhood. So please, oh please, we beg, we pray, go throw your TV set away, and in its place you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. The poet urges and appeals from his heart to throw away the TV set and in its place install a bookshelf. He urges to replace the TV set by a bookshelf in the house. Then fill the shelves with lot of books, ignoring all the dirty looks, the screams and yells, the bites and kicks and children hitting you with sticks. If the television set is thrown away, the children initially will get angry, they will give dirty looks, they will bite, they may even hit their parents with sticks. But the poet insists to install a bookshelf, ignoring all these dirty looks. Fear not, because we promise you that in about a week or two of having nothing else to do, they will now begin to feel the need of having something to read. When the children would find nothing else to do, they will definitely pick a book up to read it, and thus gradually they will grow their reading habit, and one day they will thank their parents. And once they start, oh boy, you watch the slowly growing joy that fills their hearts. They will grow so keen, they will wonder what they had been seen in that ridiculous machine, that nauseating, foul, unclean, repulsive television screen. Once they start reading, they will find the fulfillment of life. They will broaden their perspective. Thus, one day they will thank their parents for installing the bookshelf, and they will hate the television set and wonder why they had spent their valuable times in watching the useless, repulsive, idiotic box. They will find the television set disgusting and useless one day, and will be keen to study. Finally, each and every child will thank their parents to give them the opportunity to read a lot. And later, each and every kid will love you more for what you did. Even when they would grow up, they would thank their parents to make them study, for taking the television set away and give the opportunity of reading. They will learn that TV cannot be a substitute for reading. They will gradually learn that books are the real source of wisdom. So learners, that's how the poem ends, with a message to all of us that we should not waste our time watching television, and we should grow habit of reading. So learners, this was the poem all about. If you want any questions to be discussed, you can write me in the comment section. I will be there with another video. Till then, stay happy and keep studying.